listening to KCYP 97.7 The City. This is Scarlet Rose, and you're now listening to RGV Rocks.
You're listening to KCYP 97.7 FMLP The City. This is Scarlet Rose on RGV Rocks. KCYP 97.7 FMLP The City is a nonprofit organization that promotes local artists such as myself and is the home of indie music. We are now accepting donations to our website, www.thecity977.com. and as well as sponsorships to keep this radio station thriving. For more information on paying donations, sponsorships, or business advertisement, feel free to contact Joe Martinez at 956-789-0702 or by email at martinezjoe@hotmail.com. I will also be leaving donation links in the description below if you guys want to donate to the station or even to our show. We'll plug that in later on in the show. For the people that don't know who we are or what we do, RGV Rocks is a radio show and now an online podcast dedicated to local talent events and all the wonderful people in the RGV such as you and I. Today we have a very special guest by the name of Mark Vasquez. How are you doing?
Doing good. Mark Velasquez, but Mark is
Sorry.
fine. Mark is fine. Mark is perfect. Or it's like everybody calls me on the show, ooh. But yeah, I'm one half of the Chewy New podcast, man. I'm doing great this morning, man. Doing great. And that's the intro was awesome. I mean, that's a mouthful.
It's a mouthful. Yeah, it is. I've had so many trouble having to do the intro, and I've learned from my radio teacher back in the day, Dr. J. So he was the one who did the whole intro, and I had to learn that over and over again, so I can go on the air just saying that. So yeah. It's a mouthful.
It is. That's very good. Good radio quality speaking voice. That's awesome.
Thank you so much.
Now I'm nervous. Jeez.
No, don't worry about it. Here on the show, we don't get nervous. It's only excitement from here on out.
All right, I'll do this just to keep myself acquainted. Go ahead.
Anyway, so hello. How are you doing today? I know it's your first time on the RGV Rocks podcast, so I'm very excited to have you here on the show.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm excited to be on it too. I've been seeing your show of all the local talent that's been jumping on, people that have been speaking. I know you spoke with Fred from the Yeehaw podcast, good friend of mine also. I mean, it's a privilege when people invite you to come on or you ask to be on a podcast, sort of like yours or ours, because you get to meet the person and really dig to the inside of who they really are, so you can get a more or less acquainted, so that with anything they're doing as far as like a talent, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I get you. But that's what we're all here about, especially on the station and as well as our show. We're here about Valley talent and we're here to hear your stories. And you guys make it really entertaining for the audience here that are listening in. So I want to ask you a very important question leading up to our interview. And this is the question that we usually ask a lot of our interviewees that are new on the station and also on our show. What do you like about the RGV and why?
The RGV, well, it's home. It's home. I mean, I know there's a lot of people who say, well, man, you try to leave the RGV and the RGV tends to pull you back in, like a black hole. But scientists have proved there has been a star that's been spit out of the black hole. So it's not exactly true. So you can go on that later on. But it's home. It's home. Anywhere you move in the valley, I say that you're not from myself from Donna, Texas, raised in Donna, Texas, leaving Donna, moving to McAllen, Harlingen, Edinburgh, you're still home. You know what I mean? You're still at home base and you feel secure. Now, when you move out and you go further out to Corpus Christi, Austin, San Antonio, Lubbock, way out, Dallas, Houston, you leave a piece of yourself behind. It's a new place, you're getting to learn new stuff, but you're not at a hole. And that's what I love about the valley is anywhere you go, it's always, I know you, I know your brother, or I know a friend of your friend, or everybody knows everybody. It's like a giant family, and that's what makes it feel like home every single time. So yeah, that's really why I really enjoy living in the valley, man. It's just like home. It's home.
You have no idea how many times that I've had people like, it's weird because like people know people, and it kind of freaks me out because
Yeah.
I've had a lot of interviewees that have looked into our show before, and then they look at like who we've interviewed, and like it's kind of weird because so many interviewees are like, oh, I know my friend went on your show before. And the other times they're like, I think you interviewed my fam, and it was just like, it's so crazy. It's really crazy.
Yeah.
And then going on about like going upstate, it's another world
It's an
out
adventure.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I have been upstate, I think, since sophomore year. It's now my current year, so basically like
Mhm.
since last year. Since
Right.
last year,
Right.
I've been oh, well, I guess like away from home because of
Right.
college and whatnot. And I can tell you the amount of times that there are people that just don't get valley life. The amount of people that are from the valley that come over to like college campuses and whatnot because
Yes. Yeah.
to continue their education,
Right.
they always talk about the valley. They always talk about how the culture is, and saying like, oh, you're from the valley, you probably know this person, this person, this person.
Right.
And
Right.
people from up north really don't get that. And
Right.
it just it kind of like blows my mind sometimes, because it just, you're so used to that concept of
Yes,
knowing
ma'am.
one another, and then also that you have very similar experiences when it comes to like the tacos, the culture, all this
Yeah.
stuff. And then up north it's completely different, and you just feel like you're kind of like distancing yourself from like your actual home. So I can contest to that. It's very different from like the valley.
Yes, it is. I mean, consider the fact that when we go on vacay, when myself and my wife, before our son was born, we would go on vacay, and yeah, it was fun to get out of town once in a while, but
Mm-hmm.
you're out there having the time of your life. You're like, wow, you know what? It's time to go home. It's time to go back home, because I've driven up to South Dakota itself and being up there
Wow.
for about a week, and you're like, wow, I really miss Texas. And when you get into Texas, you're like, man, I really miss the valley. So yeah, I totally agree, man. I totally agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
especially because like the amount of times that I've been craving like real good tacos,
Hey,
it's so disappointing when you come up
hey.
here, because you're expecting like, okay, well, the San Antonio tacos, I've heard about them like
Mm,
forever, and like the upstate tacos. And
right.
I've been hearing about all these rumors saying like, oh, they're the best tacos, like maybe they can compare to the valley. I
Yeah.
tried some. They don't
Yeah.
get tested whatsoever.
No. And a quick story. We went up to South Dakota to visit my sister-in-law. We just went up to visit her at an Air Force base,
Mhm.
and we're up there, and we decided to make barbecue. And up there, I don't know what kind of wood they use, but we did take a couple of mesquite wood with
Oh,
us
okay.
up there. So we set it up in the backyard, and we're cooking out in the backyard with mesquite wood. And that smell, it roams all over the place. And since we're on an Air Force base, you had troops walking on, like, hey, what are y'all cooking over here? The
Oh my.
sweet smell of mesquite, man. I tell you that much. The sweet smell of mesquite. So, but yeah, it is. It's a wonderful feeling, man, when you're on the valley.
Mm-hmm. Now
Hmm.
let me ask you something really quick, because I know that you have your True New podcast. How did you get
Right.
into podcasting?
Uh, Podcasting first started out. Actually, a buddy of mine. We were riding motorcycles. This was before the pandemic. We were riding motorcycles. We were constantly cruising all over the valley and stuff. And he had an idea. He goes, "Hey, man, why don't we record our rides?" Yeah, sounds like a plan. Let's record our rides. So we started recording our rides, started putting it on YouTube. Just the ride, just driving. And then he comes over, hey man, why don't we do like a podcast? I've always wanted to do a podcast. I always wanted to try it, but I never really got around to doing it. He's like, something like, I'm going to do it, but yeah, I'll do it later, you know? But the time was now. And he told me, yeah, go ahead and try it out and see how it comes out. I go, what do you mean you go ahead and try it out? He goes, do the first episode by yourself. And when you do a podcast by yourself, I'm not going to lie to you, it's tough. It's tough because you got to come up with the idea of what you're going to talk about, what's the subject, what's the topic. And I probably did about at least anywhere between 20 to 30 takes before I got my actual first episode downright, I guess you could say. There was a lot of dead air in between. So I go, you know what? I'm gonna try it. And I kept hitting it. I came to the second episode. He goes, you know what? Do another one by yourself.
Yeah.
And by the third episode, do another one by yourself. By the time he knew it, it was like 10 episodes in. He goes, all right, now it's time for me to come in. I'm like, what? Well, I wanted you to be the anchor, just in case one of us runs short on what to say, which was a great idea. So, and sure enough, our little podcast started rolling. And then eventually, there was other little podcasts in between. For your show, Skate, I will not talk about it. So, but there was we came across the Chew New podcast in those other podcasts that we had, and here we are today.
Oh
Here we
my
are today.
gosh.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Do you
Yeah.
want to like explain to the audience like what your podcast is about for people that are barely tuning in?
Well, our podcast pretty much persists of people that have talent in the valley, people that want to speak out. I know it's hard sometimes to get on radio. I know it's hard sometimes to get on TV. It's hard to get on the old school stuff. Back in the day was radio, TV, paper. That was it. There was nothing on. Now there's so much social media, TikTok, YouTube, name it. It's all over the place. But what better way to have a podcast where you can come in, two guys are asking you questions just about you, and you can actually explain yourself, like, well, this is what I do, this is who I am, this is how long I've been doing it, and, giving you a voice. Sometimes we've had people that come in that just want to rant. We're like, yeah, what exactly you want to rant about? Because I mean, we got people that are helping us out here. We don't want to upset anybody.
Yeah.
But we have a couple of people that like to come in and just rant, and that's fine. We've had people that have conspiracy theories that have come in, paranormal groups that have come in also, and I've always loved inviting other podcasts also to come in and talk about their podcast, so they can promote their stuff with our fans. That way it slowly branches out into something bigger, because we have a lot to offer down here in the RGV. It's just the platforms to have availability for them to speak. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you. But when what's it called? Yeah, I get that when it comes to like podcasts and stuff like that, because that was like the whole basis of what we try to do since like 2018. So imagine starting a podcast in 2018 and then not really many people listen to it, and then the peak of the pandemic happened, where everybody was listening to podcasts, and they're like,
yes, yes, yeah, and that was, I guess you could say that. I'm not gonna put it as the pandemic being the cherry on top, but it kind of was. I mean, I don't want to say that, but yeah, people had basically TV or radio at home. There were some people that couldn't even go to work, and everybody was doing it from home. So we were fortunate enough that people stayed home, I guess you can say, and all of a sudden voices started getting heard. So that was the beauty about it.
Yeah, it was a real, I think, revolutionary tactic whenever like the pandemic happened, because I mean, like, I don't feel like you said anything wrong about that, because there was like a person on our podcast, I wouldn't say who it was, but they were kind of glad the pandemic happened.
Right. No, I hear you.
Yeah. So,
I've heard quite a few in our podcast also. I said that. Yeah.
But going into like the Chew and You, so tell me how, because you mentioned a little bit of how you got into podcasting. How did the Chew and You go about, or like what was the main thing that started it all?
Okay, get some Kleenex because it's gonna be a sad story.
Oh my gosh.
No. Well, at the time I was doing one podcast, and my buddy, who him and I used to have the Hyena podcast radio with the motorcycles. He goes, hey man, there's a buddy of ours, he's at home, he's going through a rough patch. First of all, his family members passed away in his life, and he was diagnosed with he was diabetic, and all of a sudden he lost his leg, and he was going through a kind of a pretty bad rough patch. He goes, you know what, I'm gonna do my best and give him a little taste of my podcast, coming as like an extra just to mess around. Sure enough, he liked it. I let him in on a second one, and he liked it even more. And then my buddy goes, you know what, we should start a podcast with him. You go for it. You're helping him out, get him out of that house, bring him out back into the world. because you know what? Let me see what I can do. So I started, figuring out what can we do, blah, blah, blah. Myself being a musician so many years in the entertainment business, uh, that one guy says, I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it. And suddenly you're like, you know what? It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Let's go a different way. So I figured, what better way to give back to the local musical scene is doing a podcast, giving them a mic so they can present themselves and, talk about themselves and see what kind of talent they have. So I brought this to Chew's attention, and he was like, you know what? I'm in. Let's do this. And it was funny because when we started our first podcast, it was with a cell phone. We started on cell phones. I would call him up, he would call me up, we would record, and I would try to upload. We had like 3 episodes that we had done, and I like the way the podcast gods wouldn't let us go through downloading it. So we kept going until finally we got our first episode, and it just took off after that, and the ball kept rolling. I finally got him out of his place, and now he's out and about. And I mean, and my buddies telling me, hey, dude, if it wasn't for you, dude, you saved his life. I go, I don't think I did. I think we all did, because we all came together to get him out of that house and get him out of that rut. So yeah, and he's doing good. And there's some stuff that's going on in his life right now that I rather him talk about it on the podcast, slowly but surely, because I mean that's his story, but that's my story on how him and I started the podcast together. So in the Chew and New thing, everybody, what does Chew and New mean? Because I know the look in your face right now. That's the next question is going to come out of your mouth. Chew and New. The first time I met Chew, it was in a bad situation, but kind of like I was there to pick him up from somewhere he shouldn't have been. And I only would speak to him on Xbox Live. And I didn't know what he looked like. I didn't know who he was. And a buddy told me, hey, do me a favor, man, can you go pick him up? Yeah, I'll go pick him up. Not a problem. Anything for a bud. When I go pick him up, and when I get there, this 6'5" person walks straight up to me. I'm like, sweet Lord.
Oh my God.
You look like a freaking Chewbacca. And he looked at me, and I'm only 5'7". He looks at me like, yeah, shut up, Ewok. So that pretty much took the part of Chew and New. So the Chew is Chewbacca, and I'm Ooh, which is the Ewok.
Oh
so
my
that's how
gosh,
it formulated.
That is genius. That is complete genius. Oh my God. I was thinking because it was like, I don't know.
We're hairy? Yeah, it's because we're really hairy. I understand. No, I was joking.
Oh my gosh. I did not think that's how it would start. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, like, what's it called? Yeah, I do agree with the whole team effort thing, because if it weren't for y'all, where would he have been?
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. And I just thank my lucky stars that he was put in my path, and him and I have been doing magic on camera. We do all our shows live stream, and our audio gets released the following day. So, and that's the beauty about it. And it's been nothing but fun. It's been nothing but fun every single episode.
So let's talk about one of your episodes that pertaining. I know I asked you before the show.
I know. I know.
How was it like having Tim Smith being interviewed? I want to know like all about that, because
do I start jumping up like a little girl right now? Like, oh my God! No, it was. First of all, it was amazing when I at that time I was sending out invitations. Who would like to come on the podcast? Who would like to come on? Would you like to be on a podcast? And I came across Tim Smith on Facebook, and watching him do the weather and stuff. Like, Tim Smith has been in my household since 1983, since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And if you listen to the podcast, on that podcast, I said it was a battle between Channel 4 and Channel 5. Well, that day Channel 4 died, so it was not Johnny, but Channel 5, just straight out. But it was a text out of the luck. I sent him a voicemail, first of all, best as I could without cracking, and I asked him, hey, my name is Mark. We have our little podcast here in Westaco, Texas. We would love to interview you. You're like an icon in the Valley. We would love to have you on the show. If you're up to it, I would gladly schedule any day you want to come on in, so we can interview you. So that was the situation. So I was like, all right, cool. After that, it was like, okay, it's not going to happen. It was worth a shot, whatever, whatever. It is what it is. Well, maybe about 2 or 3 days later, he hits me up on Messenger. Hey, sorry for the long wait. Barely getting back to your text. I would love to be part of your podcast. Let's set up a date. I see you have your podcast on Wednesday nights. I am available between 7 and 9. I can do it right after I finish doing my weather here at 6 o'clock. I can run over to your where you located. I go. That's when I text them back. Located in Westaco. Not even that far. I give them the address and oh, you're not that far away. Love to do it. Let's schedule it. I'm like, oh my goodness. I told Chew, literally Chew jumped up with his prosthetic leg running around the room without his walker. He was freaking out. And I'm like, wow, we were at awe. We're just like, we're going to interview Tim Smith. Holy moly, this is going to be freaking amazing. I can't wait. So the day comes to interview him. I was telling him I have to give him a great intro, first of all, because he's coming into this podcast. I need to make him feel like the Michael Jordan of the Valley. God. He's been here so many years. And sure enough, I put I think Thunderstruck for him as the intro, and I'm introducing him. And he is flipping. He's like, oh my man, I feel like Michael Jordan. I go, yes, that's what I want you to feel like, Tim. Mr. Smith, no, you call me Tim. Mr. Tim. All right, so but it was awesome. It was awesome being in the presence of him in the podcast, talking to us face to face. There was gifts given to him also. We tried to be respectful as we could. Mm-hmm. There was a point in the podcast. You got to go look for the podcast where I did take a shot at him for some picture that he has at home of himself that they made for him. I'm not going to spoil it. You got to look for that spot. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he laughed his butt off on that. And, it was awesome. It was awesome. It was great. And he told me whenever we wanted him back, just to let him know with a little bit of time. There are situations where he can and he can't, like events like tour drives. I understand he can't because Channel 5 does that tour drive with him, or like events like that. Maybe maybe we did something here in the podcast, he probably would come back. I don't know. And then after that, like 2 days later, we got to interview Sam Daly after that. And it was just like little icon after icon were coming in through that door. Like, oh my goodness. Like I was getting too excited. So like, you know what? Like, and lucky for me it was on season 3, which was this past year. And that's one of the highest, one of the best episodes I think that we've done, especially somebody that's well known in the RGV. So yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to get Sam Daly for so long because he's been like my favorite what's called radio host. I don't know. We can make it happen. I don't know if I've ever publicly stated this because like I would always want to watch James's show on the Q, but the problem is I would always miss it. So then I would end up with Sam Daly, and then I would listen to his show, and I was like, "The Vampire King, bro." I got it.
and if you go to that episode, he'll tell you actually how he came to the name, getting the Vampire King. He's on there, and I'm just telling you, those of you who are under 18, do not listen to it. He goes a little raw, but it was a great episode. And also speaking of the Q, we did have Charlie Corona on the podcast about a couple of weeks ago. So that was also a lot of fun too, man. It's beautiful seeing these guys in radio itself, me growing up, hearing them, and like, wow, to be in the studio, it's like in awe. Like, wow, man, I don't know what to say to them. Just thank you for making my lonely nights nice, I guess. I don't know. But it's awesome. It's an awesome feeling. It's an awesome feeling.
Yeah. I have one question about what's it called? I know the newest episode that came along, but it was you, I think, was it you or somebody else that was dressed as Deadpool, and then the dude from Teen Titans? I can't remember his name, but
that's Deathstroke.
Deathstroke. There we go.
Not Slade. No. Oh, hold on. Let me do it. Let me do it correctly. Slade. No, not like that. Not like that.
You have no idea how long that he wanted to like put the effects on, because he came up like before the show and he was like, "Oh, we can censor bad words. I got an idea, and then he just puts like the sound.
Yeah, I mean, and it's crazy that you say that. No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. No, yeah, that was actually this past week's episode. Thank you for watching. I'm glad you watched it. Thank you. It was a lot of fun, and a lot of people watching. They leave comments, and it just gets sometimes it gets really out of hand. I can't read every comment on there because like I said, we do have sponsors. We don't we enjoy our sponsors, but yeah, it's fun. And this, well, I know this airs, I'm not gonna say when it airs, but if you see the episode yesterday, I'll say it like that, it's my birthday episode, so that's gonna be a fun one. That should be a really fun one. We're gonna let our hair down on that one, I think. Yeah, it should be fun.
Well, anyway, like I'm trying to think. Happy belated birthday? Question.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
there
belated.
you go. We're talking. Yeah. Go. Thank you.
I couldn't tell if you said like when it airs, so I was thinking like maybe your birthday was when it airs, or maybe like
it's gonna be on
prior.
the 26th.
Oh
on the
my
26th.
Gosh.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Well, happy birthday.
Oh,
I don't want to say how old you're turning, because I know that's kind of like really taboo when
yeah, let's just say a nice cool, I'll say it, 47. I'll be 47 years old. I'm still young. Yeah, even when I'm 70, I'll still be young. So
oh my god.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, thank you for joining us on RGV Rocks. It has come to the conclusion of our 30-minute episode. So
thank you.
Before that, I want to ask you, do you have any like social media plugins where we can like find your podcast at, or like
you're gonna love this. You're gonna love this. You ready for this?
Oh my god.
This is all you have to do. Go to Google, type in the Chewy New Podcast, and we will pop out like a sore weed on a summer day. You will catch all our stuff on there. Google will give you everything, to even what size shoe Chew wears. You can catch us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Pod, Google Podcast. You can even hear us on Ghana, which is actually is it Ghana? I believe it's Ghana. It's in India. We have to pay to listen to our podcast, which is crazy. I don't know how I have yet to see a check. But you can hear us over at least 20 streaming stations. We have our YouTube page also, Chewy New Podcast. You can watch past episodes. Yeah, I mean, like I said, Google it and we will pop out like a sore weed on summer day, man. It's you'll pull us out, but we'll keep growing back, and no matter what you try to do, man, you can, any working tool you can, we're just gonna pop out everywhere. But yeah, and I appreciate coming out on y'all's podcast, man. RGV Rocks, man, guys, and I will mention this on the podcast also. If you get a chance, I mean, hit them up. It's a great podcast station. What better way to voice yourself on a RGV Rocks? I mean, what Rocks pretty much says it all, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to go out there and do that and get a chance, get out there and do your thing and get a hold of these guys so they can put you on camera. Yeah. No, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you, because I mean, like you make the basically this whole entire podcast just come to light.
There you go. I'll give you that. I'll give you that little applause there for you.
Oh my gosh.
Enjoy that right there.
Do you have any shout outs before we leave?
Big shout out, first of all, to that big lug of my I call him my co-host, and he calls me, I'm his co-host. To Chew Balde, big shout out to that big galoot. Love him to death, man. He's like another brother in my life. To all the Roundtable Studio podcasts that are here with me, Evil by Default, Chris King, Queen Court, Paranormal Discourse, Tiny Studio Productions, Quest Black, all these guys that have come in that have beautified the Roundtable Studios even more in what they do, and it's a strong team, and I love it. I love that I'm a part of them. I love they're a part of us, and we help each other out through and through, man. And a big shout out to them, and also a big shout out to my lovely wife, my wonderful son who's doing a great job next door. Playing his video games. Dad, I will not come out on the interview. I might come in for candy, but I won't come in for the interview.
Oh my God.
So, but yeah, big shout out to my son. Love him to death. And anybody who, like I said, my inner circle, you know who you are. Thank you for supporting us and giving me an extra backbone to keep going and doing what I got to do. And I appreciate y'all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us here on RGV Rocks. If you guys would like to learn more about what we do, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Facebook and Instagram is just RGV Rocks, and Twitter is Rocks RGV. Once again, Facebook, Instagram is just RGV Rocks, and Twitter is Rocks RGV. We also have a Patreon account, which we give very special shout outs. So let's just say, like, if you want to get a specialized personal shout out, such as like a happy birthday or something like that, you can just donate to our Patreon. It goes straight to the station, and not only does it support us, but as well as it supports other podcasts on the station as well. So you can just do that, or just donate to like the station directly. Either or, you're still supporting us 100% to get the show on air. So please donate.
I feel your pain, Mom. I feel your pain.
But I would like to remind everyone, thank you for listening to our humble little show, and we'll be here next time on our 100th, which I'm very excited about.
Hey, I'm happy to be on 99, girl. That's awesome. That is awesome. And
hey,
just to let you know,
happy 100th.
This one right here, this podcast right here that we're doing is 175 for me as far as all the podcasts I've done. So this is 175 for me. Thank you very much. It's a privilege, man. I appreciate it.
You hit the 100th, then you're gonna go to 200 soon.
So. I'm getting there. I want to get there personally, probably. Hey,
anyway,
guys.
I just want to remind everyone, thank you for listening to KCYP 97.7 FMLP, The City. We'll see you guys next week.
Latest Gators!